Hey there, today is the 28th of March 2020 and it's day 13 of my quarantine lockdown diary here in British Columbia. A little bit of news from my area and from around the world and a little bit of what's going on personally in my life. And you can look back on this profile for my previous 12 days. Here in BC we have 17 dead now. There's about 1 or 2 new being added per day, and that is slowly creeping up. There are 81 critical patients that are on life support or ventilators and various things in the province, and wishing them well. The numbers of infected, of course, go up every day, and there now is a ban on physically socializing outside your immediate household members. They're calling it people that aren't socially distancing enough, but another way to say that is people who are socializing. You can it's a double negative. You can kind of simplify it by saying there's a ban on physical socialization, and so you're not allowed to be with other people. That's a first for humans. We really like being around other people, so this is the first time we've ever experimented with not being around each other and minimizing contact with each other. So it's a new world, definitely. And I was thinking, what are some changes that brings, those rules bring it? It's kind of vague the way they describe it, but how does it actually impact our lives? And I was thinking, well, for one thing, there's no bars, clubs, lounges, or pubs allowed, that's for sure. And they've specifically said those are closed, but even if they weren't specifically closed, that would have to end, because you can't have those without any kind of interaction between humans. That's just what you do when you go to those places, is you interact with humans. So you couldn't have bars, clubs, lounges, pubs. You also can have protests. That's something that I was involved in a lot, was protesting various things. For example, the bad cannabis laws in Canada. And what you're looking at here are some cannabis plants that I just finished harvesting. This is obviously while they were still standing, and I just thought I would take some clips and put it up on the screen. And of course, if you don't like what's up on the screen, you can always minimize it and just listen to my voice if you're only after what the news and what's going on. So anyway, other things that are prohibited, protests I just mentioned, and another one is friends, outside of online friends, or I guess imaginary friends. But we're not allowed to have any real in-person human friends anymore, unfortunately. We can have animal friends, I guess, dogs and birds and things, but we can't be friends with other humans except for on the internet. Another thing is parties. There are no parties anymore on this planet, on Earth. No getting together with other people and listening to music or anything else like that. That's not happening anymore. No dating. You're not allowed to date anymore. You can't. Well, you can date in your own family, but that's really not happening, I don't think, I hope. But there's no dating outside of the family anymore. So if you don't live with someone already, you can't move in with anybody. There's no more moving in with people. There's no more dating. You can't go on a date. You can't meet anybody. There's online dating, I guess, still. Phone dating. There's no paying in cash anymore. You're not allowed to pay with cash on this planet. There's no sports, except for maybe online sports or individual sports that can be done away from others, like, I don't know, mountain climbing or something, I guess. There's no live music. Well, you could play live music. It would just be a one-man band and no one can be listening unless they're far away. So I guess you can go out into a field and have a few people scattered around the field as long as they're not close to each other listening to you play your music. There's no outdoor markets allowed. That's a big thing in a lot of countries. They rely on outdoor markets. That's their commerce. That's where they get their food. That's where they get their money. That's not happening anymore. And no movies, no concerts, no opera, none of those sort of get-togethers inside in concert halls and that kind of thing. That's not happening. And there's a long list. It can go on, but there's a lot of things that are changing now that we cannot physically socialize with each other. And they say that it's going to be only a couple weeks. In Italy, they said it would only be a couple weeks, and that's now been extended to a month. But of course, with their numbers not really turning around and it's just getting worse and worse, are they going to have to stay in quarantine, or are they just going to give up and say it's not working? You guys can all go back out and socialize again? I don't know what's going to happen. But it doesn't look like it's going to be happening soon, whatever does happen. It's going to be more of this, more of isolation, more of quarantine. And they're shaming anyone who's not quarantining enough or anyone who's socializing physically in person. It's, it's everywhere. The media and the government and even people are getting in on it. There's snitch lines now. You can snitch on people who aren't isolating. So really, really interesting times. And now CNN and other mainstream media are reporting that the power, the internet, and even the mail service now may go down. So imagine the entire world plunging into darkness, no power, no internet, for the first time in a long time. I think there would be chaos. I think there would be, it wouldn't be good. But they're hinting now that this may be coming. They're hinting that we don't know if we can keep the power on. We don't know if we can keep the internet going because there's such a huge strain on the internet. You dirty, horrible people consuming so much internet bandwidth. They're shaming people for using the internet so much. Well, if you can't do anything else, if you're not allowed to see each other, the only way you can see another human is by looking at a screen, I guess you're going to do that. So they're shaming us for doing that. And then they're stoking the fear. And then they're shaming us again for example, hoarding. They say they're going after hoarders and profiteers and such. There's not very many hoarders and profiteers. Most people are just trying to buy food for their families, because they see that the shelves are empty and the supply chain is drying up. People know that. The government's saying, don't buy food. Don't take cash out of the bank. Don't blah, blah, blah. It's all bad advice. In general, it's pretty much bad advice. Everything they're saying is not a good thing to do. You should be buying food. They're shaming us. They're stoking fear. And then when people react to that fear by going out and buying stuff, because that's one way we assuage our fears, is we buy things and we store things like a squirrel. We want stuff. It makes us feel safer. So when we're hit by that fear and we try and get safety, and when we try and diminish that fear, they shame us for it. They shame us for buying things. Shame on you for buying the toilet paper, for buying the cleaning products, for buying that food, right? No. We're supposed to be doing that. That's a smart thing to be doing right now with the supply chains breaking down. And, hoarding, not a good idea. No one should be hoarding. No one should be profiteering off of this. No one should be buying thousands of rolls of toilet paper at one price and trying to sell them at a higher price. I've never been a profiteer. I've never even advocated that in things like stocks. I consider that profiteering. You're just taking from someone else. You're not really getting anything for everyone by making money at stocks. You're just making money for yourself, and you're taking from others. That's the same thing that's going on here when people are hoarding toilet paper. When we're hoarding canned goods, way more than we could possibly eat in a lifetime. There's no point in that. That's true. But that's a very, very small minority of people. Most people are just trying to get food and groceries and supplies in the house for themselves over the next month or two. That's what most people are doing. And the supply chain is breaking down because of it. So demand is up for supplies and for food, and supply is down. So what do you think is going to happen? Shortages, obviously. And that's not the people's fault, but it is being blamed on the people. And the fact that the internet might go down is being blamed on the people. The fact that the mail might go down, well, that's not being blamed on the people. They're saying that's because the employees are just too scared to work, or they're already sick. They've gotten the virus and they're off sick, or they're too scared to come to work. So they're having trouble with employees, basically. And the financial strain, I guess they're saying, is making the U.S. Postal Service maybe ending service soon. So there won't be mail coming to the house, or shipments or deliveries, right? And there won't be any power coming to the house. Will there be water, right? If there's no internet coming to the house, how do we communicate? How do we get the news? I don't have a TV. And is TV going to keep coming to the house? I don't know. They're talking about all these services no longer working in Canada, the US, and around the world. So if they're talking about it, that might mean that it actually could happen. And we've seen many, many things, drastic things even happen over the past few weeks. So I think almost anything could happen. And yes, the power could go out. It could go out sooner than we expect it to. It could go out, I think a lot of things are happening faster than people thought. Like cash being removed from the world has essentially happened, or is happening everywhere now. And people thought, I'd have a little more time. No. That's why you have to prepare now. The best time to prepare is yesterday, but the second best time to prepare is now. And I just hope that a lot of people have done so already, because it's getting really hard to find anything, and options are breaking down, and the government is cracking down on our freedom to move around. Even here in BC, we're not allowed to get on a bus or a plane anymore, even within Canada, unless there's temperature checks and screening going on. So movement is even being restricted within provinces, within towns in Canada. And I think that's going on everywhere as well now. This is all rolling out very quickly. Very quickly. And before I go, I just wanted to mention that China is now one of the least affected countries in the world. The epicenter, the source, apparently, of this outbreak has cured themselves. They have no new infections, almost no new cases, and they blame any new case on foreigners. They say it's coming in from outside. Is that true? Is that real? Is China... How could that be possible, that a plague could begin spreading from one part of the world and then from there spread to all other countries, and is spreading within those countries from city to city and from person to person, and it's going to infect, they say, everybody in the world. It's going to infect everyone. How can China have no cases? How can China have eradicated it? I think the numbers there aren't right. I think the Chinese numbers are lying. I think they're grossly lying. They have 1.5 billion people there, and they're saying only a handful of people died. And everywhere else now, the numbers are far higher than China's numbers. Italy, Spain, the US even, the UK, everything's higher than China now. So something's weird with those numbers. And something's probably weird with all the numbers, that's true, but one thing is certain. There is a virus that is spreading throughout the planet. And one thing is certain as well, there is an economic collapse that didn't get caused by this virus. It's just triggered by the virus. And the economic collapse may be worse than the virus. I don't know, ultimately. And the loss of freedoms that are coming as a result of the virus and the economic collapse at the same time are a huge issue as well. And I've talked about those in past videos, and I will talk about them again, but I don't want to go too far into it here. I want to leave it there for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this and upvoting, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow for day 14. Stay well.